Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Walhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulillahi wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. So you'll be happy to know this is the fifth and final element, and then after this element, then we go into chapter 6, learning the Arabic language. This is the one you've been waiting for, right? So make sure you bring your book. All right. So we'll be doing this now, inshallah, this class. Like from tomorrow, inshallah, we'll be doing these classes between Maghrib and Isha.
Every day?
Yeah, every day, inshallah. Because we're going to be here for Maghrib, and we don't want to do the live stream too early like we did tonight. Because you see, like the brother, he had to leave, the old man, he had to go. And then what happens with the live stream, we have to cut it short because Hamza had to go, the old man had to go. So we're going to do this class first, like whatever, Kitab Tawheed, one day, this book the next day, during Maghrib and Isha. That way we can pray Isha on time. So anybody that's here, we pray. Yeah, and that way after Isha, we can do the live stream until 12 o'clock if we want to. But yeah, so inshallah, let's go ahead and finish this chapter up so we can get to in the next class, we can get to the part that you're waiting for, huh? All right, so the fifth element is researching. So we've gone over all the different elements, which were what?
Reading, writing, memorization,
studying, and researching. So they're not in order, right? Because obviously, memorization should be the first one. I mean, if I was going to go back and redo these, because I kind of just did this on the fly, like this one was not even an original chapter in the book. I said, it just popped in my head, and I said, I just made it a chapter. Like I had literally had to fit it in between these two chapters, because it just popped in my head. I said, that's a good idea, the 5 elements. Because I always used to read in Chinese medicine, they talk about the 5 elements, wood, fire, water, so whatever. So I said, yeah, we'll come up with our own 5 elements, man. Reading, writing, memorizing, studying, and researching, right? The 5 elements of studying. So it kind of popped in my head. Maybe I don't know. It's like, it happens, right? So that's, but if I had to rearrange them, put them in the correct order, no doubt, memorization will be first. But then again, I think I put reading first, right? And then the thing about it is developing the reading program is vital. Vital to being successful in seeking knowledge. Because I've seen so many people with they memorize so much. But boy, when it comes down to sitting down and reading a book, they cannot do it. They cannot do it. So that's probably why, my logic at the time of writing this book is probably why I put reading first. Because that needs to be developed. If that's not developed, it's just you're always going to be limited to what? To what you memorized. So again, the person who's memorized, they're going to say, well, I'm not limited to what? To my books, because I memorized it. So wherever I go, I have the information with me. But I'll say, yeah, but I can memorize and read a lot, and I'll have the information that I need tenfold. Because one, you're not just memorizing, but you're also reading a lot. So, it's indispensable. But this last element is the element of researching. And this is after you've studied a book, you memorized the book, you've studied the book, you've read the different explanations of the book. Now you want to go and do research in the whatever the science is that you are, once you've gotten to a certain level, not to the point of mastery, because see, the researching is what's going to take you to that level of mastery, right? Well, not just the researching, but the researching and the teaching, because you have to start teaching it. Because if you memorize, you read, you study, you research, but you don't teach, what happens?
You get weak.
Yeah, you're just going to end up forgetting a lot of the information. The knife starts to get dull, and the knife that used to just slice open the onions before, now you have to press down on it. You got to resharpen that knife. The resharpening is to constantly keep that knife sharp. That's the teaching. Keep that information real sharp in your mind, just like that knife. If you're allowed to get dull and you stop teaching, then what is it going to cut? It's not going to cut anything, is it? You get a piece of meat, try to cut the meat, it won't cut it. You have to resharpen it, keep resharpening it, right? So the same thing with that information. It has to keep being, revised and taught. And the best way to revise something is to teach it. So once you like get to that level of studying and you understand the science, now you have to start researching. And then you start going out and getting the information for yourself. And then you start formulating your own opinions. Because you've been studying, and getting other people's opinions with the conclusions that they came to. But now, once you can open up the bigger books, because what you study is the smaller books, right? But you study the small books to open up the understanding for you to get into those 10, 15 volume books now on that science, where you can sit there and just read. With the Amal Hadith or something like that, you're not going to be 15 volumes. You're not going to have 15 volume books. So I think the largest book on Mustalah Hadith is the Sharh of Fath al-Mughith, which is 5 volumes. But still, to be able to get into a book like that and read it and understand it. But when we talk about fiqh, yeah, you're going to see books of fiqh, 13 volumes, 15 volumes, 20 volumes, 27 volumes, and more. So, and books in Usul al-Fiqh, some of the mutawalat, could be like 4 or 5 volumes. Ibn Hazm has a book, it's called Al-Ahkam fi Usul al-Ahkam. It's like, some of them, they printed it in 2 volumes, some of them printed it in 4 volumes. So these types of books, you're going to have to be really well grounded into the science to actually start to sit down and start reading through these books and getting your own opinions, because the whole point of studying is for you to be able to read through these books and know this is good, this is beneficial, this is garbage, this is correct, this is wrong. This is, so when you start to read through the books, you already have a real strong filter, of garbage, because you'll see. When you start reading through books, if you just if you're accustomed to just taking opinions, but not being able to take the correct and see what the correct opinion is based on evidence, you're not trained to do that. You're just going to end up just snatching up any opinion that just seems good to you. And you're going to end up with a whole hodgepodge of just nothing, information that you don't even, subhanAllah. So, this element involves a lot of reading and patience. Once you have studied a book thoroughly, you are going to have issues that you did not understand well. You will also have other information that you understood with ease. In both of these scenarios, you will want to go to the library and the bookstore. The bookstore if you can afford it, the library if you have access to it. All right, if you don't have access to a library, you got no choice. You better start getting a job and buying some books. All right. Is that Daniel? Oh, it's S? No, it can't be S. That's what's inside. All right, first you should start reading other explanations of the book you studied. All right, because certain things that you might not have understood from the teacher, you might understand them from another explanation from another sheikh that wrote it in a book. So you go and you read different explanations and see if you can find an explanation that suits you. All right. I told you while you were studying not to read other explanations. Well, now is your time to do that, because when I told you when you're studying a book that you focus on only the explanation of what? The teacher. You don't get up there with the teacher like we talked about and say, well, I heard Sheikh Uthaymeen say this, I heard Sheikh Mabaz say this. Focus on what the teacher's teaching you. Save that stuff for your own research. You do that on your own. Pick up Sheikh Uthaymeen's book after you've studied it, and because the whole point is to find the explanation that agrees with you. And there's nothing wrong. After I memorized Usul al-Thalatha and everything, I ended up reading, I don't know whose sharh I didn't read. To say whose I didn't read would be easier. I read them all. The sharh of Sheikh Mabaz, the Sheikh Uthaymeen, Sheikh Salih Fawzan, everybody that wrote a sharh in Usul al-Thalatha, I read it. The only one that I didn't read is Sheikh Muhammad al-Aman al-Jami's, because it wasn't in print at the time. But they have it in print, and I bought it just to read it, so I can say that I read that one, even though I don't need to read it, but I bought it anyways. And I have it at the house right now, because it's one of the ones I haven't read. Same thing with Kitab al-Tawheed. When I was going through Kitab al-Tawheed, read all the shuruh, because you want to find the one that's like, okay, because each science, you're basically going to take that one book and say, this is it, this is the book I'm going to take all my information from. So like, for example, with Kitab al-Tawheed, you have Taysir al-Aziz al-Hamid, you have Fath al-Majid, Sheikh Abdul Hamid al-Hajuri, he has a sharh. I can't remember the name of it because it's still in Jacksonville. The brother's about to send it now, inshallah. You have Sheikh al-Uthaymeen, he has al-Qawl al-Mufid, the sharh of Kitab al-Tawheed. You have Sheikh Salih Fawzan has a sharh. You have Sheikh Ahmed al-Najmi, rahimahullah, has a sharh. And I read them all, I read every single one of them. But the one that always caught my attention the most, that I go back to the most, is always going to be Fath al-Majid. If I see like another sharh, I'll read it, Like even Sheikh Abdul Hamid's Sharh is like 900 and something pages. I read it before I left Saudi. And like an idiot, I read it. And the brother that was staying in my house, he came to visit, and he's like, stayed with me for like a month. He's like, man, I really love the Durus of Sheikh Abdul Hamid. I said, here, man, take it. I gave it to him. Got to America, I was kicking myself. So why did I give him that? I know he's never going to read that book, man. I know it too. When you give a book, like a brother a book, he's not going to read it. And you just like, oh, what a waste, akhi. Alhamdulillah, the brother sent it from Saudi. Now I got to wait till it gets here from Jacksonville. But yeah. But that, like, as far as like an actual just sharh, like Sheikh Abdul Hamid, he did a lot. Like I said, the explanation is 900. It's like, let me see, is it 900? It was a lot. The book is like that thick. All right. So it's a huge book. So he just basically brought everything, the kitchen sink, the bathroom sink, everything into that book. But if you just want like a basic explanation, Fath al-Majid. Fath al-Majid is probably the best. But he also has another book. It's called Qurrat al-Uyun al-Muwahideen. Same mu'allif, Abdul Rahman Ali Sheikh. So you see, and same thing, very beneficial book, So you choose the book that you want in that science. If you're doing Mustalah Hadith, you might use Tadrib al-Rawi, you might use Muqaddimat ibn al-Salah, you might use Fath al-Maghith, you might use Taqir wal-Idah. Whatever it is that you choose that one book, and that's the book that you end up focusing on. You do all your research around that one book to understand that book, and that's going to be the book that's your book. So the same thing when you're dealing with fiqh. You study books, you study Umdat al-Ahkam, you study Bulugh al-Maram, and you study al-Muntaqa. But you might say, okay, khalas, Muntaqa is going to be my book. Some other people say, no, I'm going to stop at Bulugh al-Maram. That's going to be the book. I'll do all the research. Everything that I do is going to be around understanding Bulugh al-Maram. I wouldn't advise you to do that. Like I mentioned in Telegram, I advise you to stop at al-Muntaqa. But other people, they'll say, no, I'm going to do al-Bukhari. And I'm going to use Fath al-Bari, the explanation of al-Hafidh ibn Hajar. And that's what he's going to spend his life going through. He's going to spend his life rereading it. So I've seen brothers that read Fath al-Bari 3, 4, or 5 times. Just to make sure to go back through it and get all the information. Tafsir, same thing. You're going to have that one tafsir that that's it. You're going to read all these tafsir, but then you're going to settle on what? That one. This is going to be the one that I'm going to read and reread until the day I die. All the other ones, they were all led up to me understanding this one. So I said, I told you while you were studying not to read other explanations. Well, now is your time to do that. Ask your teacher what the best explanations of the book are. Go to the bookstore and get those books that he recommended. Find the easiest one. Always ask the teacher. Ask the teacher what the best book is, and ask the teacher what the best print is. So you don't go get the book and then you get the right book, but you get a garbage print. Make sure, because, get the opinion of both. What's the best explanation and what's the best print? All right, find the easiest one and start with that one. There's not a set number of explanations you need to read, but I would not advise reading more than 5, even though I never took that advice. I always read whatever. I don't think there's a book that I memorized that I didn't read 8, 10, whatever explanations of. So, but yeah, this is me telling you something I don't do. Yeah.
Why not?
Huh?
Why don't you advise reading more than 5? Just because it's too much or what?
Because if you're reading more than 5, it's either one of 2 things. Either one, you just don't understand the book, or 2, you're seeking more information. For me, I kept reading more explanations because I was seeking more. Like, give me somebody to explain more, If you're looking for more, then you just need to go to what? You need to go to a bigger book and find that information. So if you're not finding it in that specific book, then you go to a bigger book and you find the information that you're looking for. For me, I was never happy. I was like, nah, this is not explanation, not enough, I want more. So even Al-Ajrumiyah, when I memorized Al-Ajrumiyah, I don't know how many explanations I read. I read Al-Hazmi's, I read Sheikh Al-Uthaymeen's 3 times. I read Sheikh Ahmed ibn Thabit's 2 times. I read Al-Kafarawi's at least once. I taught it. I read it once and I was teaching it. So twice, basically. Al-Maqudi's, I read it once. Al-Azhari's, I read it once. Al-Faqihi's, I read it once. So I mean, you can imagine, like, every time I got bored, I would pick up the sharh of Sheikh Al-Uthaymin and read it again, just for the fun of it. So yeah, I mean, it's just, but like I said, that's what I do. You don't have to do that. I'm just obsessive like that, I'm like, no, I gotta do it again. I gotta do it again. I gotta read it again. No, I need another book. But that's not, I mean, 5 should, if you really just want to benefit from that one book, 5 is enough. More than 5 is more of an obsession now. All right. You should, all right, but I would not advise reading more than 5. You should at least read 2 different explanations of the book if they are available. So at least 2. Don't just sit back and just read one, but at least get the 2 best ones. So like, for example, Kitab al-Tawheed, you have Taysir al-Aziz al-Hamid, and you have Fath al-Majid. Those are the 2 that were written by the 2 grandsons of Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab, rahimahumullah. So those are like the 2 top, But Fath al-Majid obviously is the best one. Why? Because Abdul Rahman, the one who wrote Fath al-Majid, he actually sat with Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab. His grandfather, but he actually sat with him. All right. The other grandson, he didn't sit with him. He sat with his father, who sat with him. So he got the knowledge differently. But Abdul Rahman actually studied Kitab al-Tawheed with his grandfather. Yeah. All right. So you should really read at least read 2 different explanations of the book if they are available. But you should not read every single explanation that you find, because a lot of the explanations are really watered down and lack much benefit. I'm telling you that from experience. Most of the explanations, they're watered down and they really don't have a lot of benefit. But I still did it anyways. Find the most beneficial ones based on advice you received and read them with a notebook next to you. Second, you want to go to the library and familiarize yourself with the books of the science that you are studying. Throughout your class, your teacher quoted from different bigger books in that science. So you want to go familiarize yourself with those bigger books. So obviously not if you're studying like Al-Ajr, but if you're studying like Alfiyat ibn Malik, the teacher's going to be quoting from like Al-Ashmuni. It's going to be quoting from Ibn Aqil. He's going to be quoting, from different books. He might be quoting from like Mughni Labib. Yeah, so you're going to write the names of these books down, and you're going to go and you want to familiarize yourself with these books. You want to go, once you understand the book, you go to the library, and then you start picking these books up and trying to read through them and seeing your understanding and get familiar with these books. Try to find the information that you were given in the class and write it word for word out of the actual source. So I mentioned this before about the class that we took with the guy from Mauritania. He kept giving us all this information, but he wasn't mentioning where he was getting it from. So when I went home, I took I had Kafiyat ibn Hajib, I had Al-Ashmuni, I had Ibn Aqil, and I had Mughni Labib. So I had those 4 books, and I would use them. I even had a Kitab al-Sibawi, but I didn't find any of the information that he gave us from the Kitab al-Sibawi. Sibawi is one of the earliest books of Nahu, of Arabic grammar. It's very difficult. It's a big book, 5 volumes. All right, Sibawi is like the math, like Sibawi was to Nahu, what I guess you would say Imam Ahmed or Imam Shafi was to fiqh, like that's it. Like Sibawi was like the math. Like if you said basically Sibawi said this, what? Oh, it's done, it's finished. It's, an argument almost, unless you got something better. So like Sibawi has a book, it's called Al-Kitab. Al-Kitab, you can find it in Algeria.
It's on Arabic grammar.
Huh?
It's on Arabic grammar.
Arabic grammar, sort of, Arabic grammar and sort of, and morphology, how the words change. Because all of that was considered one science in his time. And later on, around 500, 600 Hijri, they started splitting the science up into 2 different things. So like Muhammad ibn Malik, when he wrote Alfiya, he put sarf in the book. But then he also wrote sarf as morphology. It's like how you conjugate the word. Like the word dhahaba, yadhabu, dhahaban, dhahibun, kharaja, yakhruju, khurujan, huwa kharij, makhraj, and kharraja, yukharriju, takhrijan, wa huwa mukharraj, wa huwa mukharraj, it's how the word changes from the asl. You have the origin of the word is kharaja, but then how many words are built off of this one root word? So this is called sarf. So like Muhammad ibn Malik, he wrote his own book on sarf called Ahmiyat al-Af'al. And it started this trend of taking sarf and making it a science of outside of Nahu. Whereas if you go back to the older books of Nahu, like Alfiya and then Muhammad ibn Malik, like not Alfiya, but I mean Kitab, the Siboy, sarf and Nahu is all one science. It's all together. You know, they taught it together. But yeah, you got a lot of work, huh? So that's a lot to do, man. I'm telling you, the stuff that we're going to die not knowing is going to be way more than the stuff that we know. All right, just keep that in mind. If you ever start to like not, you get a big head, think that you know something, just remember, you're going to die. I don't care how much you read every single day, because you're not going to read more than Sheikh Al-Albani. And Sheikh Al-Albani would tell you that he died, what? The stuff that he didn't know is way more than the stuff that he did know. And none of us are going to die reading like them out. Huh?
Tiny top of the iceberg.
Yeah. So that's why the whole point of knowledge is that you just go for what you need. Go get what you need, because you're never gonna finish. You're never gonna finish. If you were just to sit down and just read just the explanations of Al-Bukhari alone, you could be sitting here for years, akhi. Years. There's so many different explanations. So you're never gonna finish. You're never going to finish. The tafsir, if you sat down and tried to read all the different books of tafsir, you'd be here for so many years just trying to do that alone. So when would you ever finish reading all these books? So you just take the most important thing. Try to get the most important thing. That's all you can do. All right, so he said, or I said, where am I? Second, you want to go to the library and familiarize yourself with the books of the science that you are studying. Throughout your class, your teacher quoted from different bigger books in that science, so you want to familiarize yourself with those bigger books. Try to find the information that you were given in the class and write it word for word out of the actual source. You can do this with a partner, or you can do this alone. Like I seen the Libyans when they were in Yemen, they would all sit down with like the Majmur al-Fatawa of Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah, and they would have like about 15 of them, and each one would take a volume. You take this volume, you take this volume, and then they would all sit down and everyone would read that one volume and take notes. And then they would all get together and they would compare all the different information that they got from each one from the volume that he was reading. So you could do stuff like this with a partner, or you could just do it alone. If you do it alone, obviously it's going to be much more time consuming. All right, you do it with a partner. If you do it with a partner, you both should have different resources. So you are looking up one issue and your partner is looking up another issue. This is the limit of research you are going to be doing in the beginning, because you do not have the necessary skills at this point to do actual research. However, this is fun. When you go to the library and you start refining the information on your own, you feel this sense of independence. It feels good, and it will motivate you to work harder, inshallah. For me, I hate sitting in classes. Oh, I hate sitting in classes. I sit in classes, man, I'm just like, man, my like they said, man, that boy's britches are on fire. Yeah, man, it feels like my pants are getting on fire. I just want to get up and run around. I can't sit down. But you put me in the library out here, I can sit there for 10 hours straight. 10 hours straight. And then people are different. Some people, they love classes. Put them in the library, 5 minutes, and he's out going to get a cup of coffee. He's going, he's finding any excuse to leave. So everybody's different. You get that rare individual, he loves to sit in classes and he loves to be in the library. You know what we call those people? Sheikh Fulan. We call him Sheikh. Yeah, Sheikh. Yeah, that was the one, he had the patience. He did it all. He had patience with everything. Yeah. He said, all right, so for me, I hate sitting in classes, but I love roaming around the library, reading from here and there. Don't limit yourself to just writing what you took in class. Take the same resources that you were given in class by your teacher and look up different issues that you study. Every time you find something new, write it in your notebook. You should list the name of the book, the printing company, the page number, and the chapter, so you can easily go back and find the information again. And I'll tell you one thing, there's a lot of difference about the information that you go and get for yourself. It's different than the information that somebody just like spoon feeds you. The information that you have to go through the books and search, you don't forget that information easily. You don't forget that. I mean, even to this day, I can still remember the first hadith that I had to go and research. The hadith in Ibn Majah where the Prophet ﷺ said, Al-Mahdi min ahli yuslihuhu Allah fil layl. I had to, me and a brother, Abu Zainab, we were sitting there drinking coffee, this Indonesian coffee. It had this little picture of a boat on it. It's like this real cheap Indonesian coffee, but it's like cracked. And we were sitting there talking, we were drinking coffee. This was after Salat al-Isha. And then he was like, he mentioned the hadith. And I was like, what is that hadith sahih? He's like, I don't know. I was like, well, where's the hadith? He's like, I think it's in Ibn Majah. I said, I'm going to the library, akhi. And I just got up and shout out to the library, stayed in the library until it closed, until they had to kick us all out. In Yemen, in the village. Because they ran there's no electricity. So they cut the electricity, is only for the masjid. So the library was running on gas lanterns. So they had little gas lanterns around the library. You had to get there and sit there and read like this. And I sat there for hours, akhi, just trying to find that hadith, find the makhraj of the hadith, find out whether or not the hadith is sahih. And then the very next day, the sheikh got asked about the same exact hadith. And then I ran out to the sheikh and I told him everything that I found in the library. Because I think what it was there was a Yemeni, one of the students, he was helping me find the books. And he was telling me, all right, what are you looking for? I said, this hadith. I think it's Sunan Ibn Majah. He said, okay, look for it here. You'll find it here. And then look over here, you'll find this. And so he was helping me out. So I think he's the one that sent the question to the sheikh the next day. But I ran out to the sheikh. I'm like, sheikh, I gave him all word for word. And then he, finally he heard, Bukhari qala fihi nadar. And he said, Bukhari qala fihi nadar. Bukhari qala fihi nadar. Qala khalas. And then the sheikh walked off. Means what? The hadith is what? Daif. Yeah, it was daif. Spent all those hours for a hadith that wasn't even authentic. All of this started because of what? You know what started this conversation? Because I told him, I said when I was in Jacksonville, I was I had a very bad lifestyle. And then one night I was with some people, I'm not going to go into detail, but we were doing everything that Shaitan gave man to do that night. And I was sitting there with them and I just looked at the people and I said, I need to go home and pray. And they were like, what? I said, I can't do this anymore. And I got up and I went straight home. I took a ghusl and I started praying. It was like 2 o'clock in the morning, right? And I prayed all the way till Fajr. I was crying and crying and crying. And I said, from that day, I never took anything, nothing. I stopped everything, stopped drinking, stopped doing everything. And then that's where the hadith came up because, the brother said, he mentioned that hadith because of that. He said, oh, you did all that in one night. He said, yeah, that's what's going to happen with the Mahdi. He's like, yuslihuhu Allah fil layl. Allah will fix him in one night. He's just saying this as because you have to be from Ahlul Bayt. He's not saying so trust me, I'm not that deceived, But he was just the comparison between the two. He mentioned the hadith, and that's why I went to go search for the hadith because of that, all because of Indonesian coffee. Yeah, but it's fun, akhi. It's fun, man. When you get up in there searching for stuff, it's fun. All right. Where did I stop? All right. Don't limit yourself to just writing what you took in class. Take the same resources that you were given in class by your teacher and look up different issues that you studied. Every time you find something new, write it in your notebook. You should list the name of the book, the printing company, the page number, and the chapter so you can easily go back and find the information again. And again, I will say this is very important. Because every time that I used to go because a Siyara Alam Nubala is it's like 27 volumes. So one day I want to go find Al-Imam al-Bukhari. I have to search. And it's like volume number 14 or something like that. I finally find it, right? Dummy, I don't go and write it down, right? So now when I come back and I want to read, let's say, the life of Al-Imam Muslim. Now keep in mind, Bukhari and Muslim, same. So it's going to be in the same volume or it's going to be either one before it or one after. Well, it's going to be one after because Bukhari is older than Muslim. So, but they lived in the same time period, but Bukhari was born before Muslim. So at the very least, it's going to be in the next volume. It'll be in 15, right? So, but again, then I go back to the library. What do I have to do now? Spend 30 minutes just trying to find the volume that has his life in it. So when you write the stuff down, then you can go back and easily just find information again. But don't do it, man. I did it every single time. every time. Even till now, I still, like now I finally got smart and did it. Like I have a piece of paper with all the names and the page numbers and the volumes, but like, yeah, it took me a long time to be organized like that. So yeah, you write stuff down so you can just go back and find it. You find good information. If you don't have time to write the information down because maybe it's long, write the page number, write the book number, write the print so you can go straight back and find that information. Because how many times we read something in books and we went back and it was really good information. We just didn't have a notebook, didn't have anything. And then what happened? You go back to try to find that information, guess what? You can't find it. It's gone. It's just lost. You know, it's in your head, but you know, if somebody said, well, where'd you get that from? You know, from the library. You know, that's not going to be, it's not going to work as evidence in this religion, right? So, and it's happened so many times. I just, beautiful information, but I didn't write it down. I didn't write where it was at, and then could never find it again, you know. So once you are finished with your research, go somewhere you can sit with your study partner and go over everything you found in the library. It is nice to do this with your favorite caffeinated beverage, Indonesian coffee, and it's even nicer to do this outside under a tree. Take a thermos full of tea or coffee and go out to an open area to revise with your study partner. Studying can be tedious at times, but you do not have to make it more tedious by staying indoors all the time. You have to find different ways to enjoy studying. You know, go out like we used to just go out in the middle of the desert, find one of these trees, sit on some thorns. You make sure that you take a mat to put down because you will be sitting on thorns if you don't. Yeah, man, enjoy yourself. Enjoy it. Make it fun. Yeah.